Hey everybody, Father John from my coronavirus seclusion. Just wanted to give everybody an update after the Supreme Court opened up the state to let everybody know what's going to happen at churches. And to make a long story short, the churches will not be open. Barber shops apparently are not going to be open either, which is quite frustrating. But more to the point, churches will not be opening this weekend. The bishop's going to meet next week and put a plan in place for all places to open. And we saw how the bars opened about 5 minutes after the Supreme Court the case was declared, which is a little bit frustrating for many people. Many people, once again, have the temptation to be very critical with authority. Why are the bars opening and not the churches? Why, if we believe in this principle of subsidiarity, which is so Catholic, why aren't parishes allowed to do their own thing? And just, again, a couple things to think about when we are going to be critical with authority is, first of all, during times of crisis, we really have to be aware of how we're acting. The best and the worst of us could come out during these times. Many people want to go to the diocese with pitchforks and demand that the masses be open. And a lot of people, even if they're not willing to do that, have that attitude. And it's good to just, again, take a step back and think of a couple things. First of all, it's very easy to be critical with authority. But what we have to always remember is that all of us have authority. All of us have a responsibility to lead. And the question is, how are we leading? We are all anointed in our baptism, and we're anointed again in our confirmation. And we're all anointed with the kingship of Christ. Priests receive this kingship in a special way, bishops in a special way as well, to lead the church. But all of us are called to lead the world to Christ. Any group of people, 3 kids in a sandbox, there's a hierarchy. Somebody is in a place of authority, somebody is leading. All of us have different positions of leadership, whether it's leadership in our families, leadership in a group of friends, leadership in our workplace, leadership in a classroom. And the question is, how are we accepting this incredible responsibility? We're called to lead our kids to Christ. Can we say we're the most incredible leaders? Can we say we're leading our kids to Christ? Can we say we're leading our friends to Christ? If we're going to be so critical with authority, how are we exercising our leadership? Leadership is really hard. And the bishop is doing the best that he can. And it's not an easy decision to make. Have in mind that for most parishes, we're dealing with the most vulnerable people. People who are older, people who could get sick, people who could die from this crisis. So we want to be very prudent and make sure that we're all doing all we can to protect those lives. So that's the first thing. If we're going to be critical with authority, always be critical with ourselves first. And the energy that we're feeling now, many people are feeling, use that energy to look at ourselves, look at our own authority, look at our own leadership, and just think of ways that we could be leading better, exercising holiness ourselves, and leading other people with holiness. And the second thing is the devotion to the Eucharist. All this frustration is around not going to Mass, not having access to the sacraments. And it presupposes a great devotion to the Eucharist. I think it manifests really that we understand that being Catholic is being centered on the Eucharist and receiving the Eucharist. And all this energy, all this frustration, I think, instead of putting it toward being upset about authority, being upset about what's going on, we should use this energy to prepare ourselves. We are going to receive the Eucharist very soon. Very soon we'll be back to normal, going to Masses. And the question is, how devout are we to the Eucharist? How could we prepare ourselves to receive Jesus Christ? It's a great time to go to confession, a great time to examine our conscience, a great time to just read once again about the Eucharist. Go to the Catechism, go to the resources about what we celebrate in the Mass, all the elements of the Mass, so that when we receive the Eucharist once again, we receive it with devotion. This is a unique time. We have more time on our hands, and it's a time, again, of energy, of some frustration about what's going on. Let's make sure that all that energy is used toward good, both about how we are exercising our authority for good and about the Eucharist in our own lives, making sure that that devotion is from the heart, making sure that when we go to the Eucharist, we understand what we're receiving, and make sure that we are prepared to receive it. God bless all of you during this time. Let us all pray for each other that we use this time to grow in our love for God and grow in our love for the Eucharist. Let us refrain from any feelings of frustration or criticism and use all that energy for good and to build up our relationship with Jesus and our holiness. God bless you, and all of you are in my prayers.